To go through a few videos where I'm not necessarily going to be taking you through step by step on a project that I want you to duplicate. Rather, I'm going to be pointing out different features and techniques that I'm hoping you'll be able to incorporate into your own original designs. So let's get started. Create a new design. And you should know now that you can drag these primitive shapes out onto the work plane and build your model from scratch. But you'll notice that there's an import button up here, so that implies that we can import files as well. And you'll see that Tinkercad supports STL, OBJ, and SVG files. So STL files you're familiar with. That's what we bring into our flash print slicer to prepare for printing on the printer. OBJ files, you'll get some experience with those in Forger 3D, the sculpting app. When you use that, you can export your sculpted models from Forger in OBJ format. And so that then implies that you could import those models into Tinkercad. So you can create a very organic shape in Forger and bring it into Tinkercad and add more geometric shapes to it. The third file type is SVG, which is a scalable vector graphics file format, which is a 2D image format. So that is interesting as well. And what I'm going to look at now, I have a 3D logo image and SVG format. I'll choose upload, artboard, sure. Just bring it in. Okay, there it is. So you can see what it did was Tinkercad took that SVG file and just gave it some dimension. And I'm not stuck with that. I can increase it, or I can reshape it any way I wish. Let's see, what did it give? A 10 millimeter height by default. So what I think I'd like to do with this is create a kind of badge or magnet for the 3D Printing Club. So this is an original illustration, but I would like a background for it. And I could use just a, I have a round disc background or square or whatnot, but where it's a 3D Printing Club, like something a little more technical. So let's see what we have under hardware. There's a gear here. That looks pretty cool. So if I bring that out, and I notice it's called a snap fit gear. So if I hit the F key on the keyboard to zoom in and I look at it, I can see that it's not flat on the inside there. Looks like the top is flat, but the inside, bottom, and top is angled a little bit. Plus there's a hole, big hole in the middle, so I want to fill that out, or fill it in, rather. So I can go back to basic designs, take out the cylinder, smooth the edges just so it's easier to see, move this over. The idea is I want to try to fill as much of that hole as possible, but it's kind of hard with this perspective view to see exactly what's going on. So over on the left-hand side, I'm going to switch to orthographic view. And then if I hit top, Now I'm looking straight down on those objects, and I can see exactly what's going on. I will turn off the grid so I can, well, I guess I want a little bit of movement here. Nudge that over. Okay, that looks about centered. The gear is 9 millimeters tall, so I will make the cylinder 9 millimeters tall and combine. Okay, so one of the tricks I'd like to point out is that when I'm dragging a new shape out, I try to get the work plane so that I'm looking straight down on it, or at least, at somewhat of an angle so that I can see where exactly I'm placing this thing. Because if I'm looking at an angle like this, and I drag this out, I really don't know where it is, right? And so, whoops, if I tilt my screen, I have no idea where that thing is. Oh, there it is, way out there. So whenever you're moving anything, in that direction, left to right, front to back, looking straight down is good. And when you're moving things sideways, you can also move the screen around so you can see better what's going on there. Because again, if I'm looking at it this way and I'm trying to move it forward, it doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there it is. Now it is, but I can't see what's going on because I'm not at an angle. So a tip there. Now I'd like to enlarge this gear, but I want to enlarge it proportionally. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and then grab a corner of the gear and pull it up. So that will increase everything proportionally. Let's see. I'll shrink that proportionally. Okay, so it's hiding it. Let me bring that down. Put that over there. Select everything, and I'm going to center it. Okay, well that looks pretty good. Before I export it though, I'm going to click on the gear and make that 1 millimeter tall, and a logo I'm going to make 3 millimeters tall. So it's pretty flat, but there's enough space in between because my ultimate plan for this is to print this in 2 colors. So the gear will be gray and the logo on top will be another color. Probably not tan, I don't know, maybe gold. Maybe instead of gray, I'll have a kind of maroon color. Maroon and gold are the school KVCC school colors, so maybe that would look good. Okay. So I can select those two and group into a single object. And notice it retained, whoops, no it didn't. it took the color from the logo. But if I click on the object and choose color and click multicolor, it'll show me the 2 separate colors that I had. Now I can go back into perspective mode and sort of look at it that way. All right, now I can export this. Oops, before I do that, give it a name, export, SSTL. Open FlashPrint. Import the model. Oh, repair, okay, fine, sounds good. So that looks bigger than I want for just a a small magnet or a badge maybe. So I'm going to resize it, scale. First thing I'm doing is noting and reminding myself that it's 3 millimeters tall total. But I'm going to leave uniform scaling on and reduce the thing. So just weigh me a little big. 60. It's a little small. I'll split the difference. Now I'm going to uncheck uniform scaling, and I'm going to put the Z height back at 3 millimeters. And you'll see why in a minute, and it's because I want to know where to change the color. And I want to make sure that I have enough material on the bottom and top layers so that I can have a nice color change. So I'm going to choose Start Slicing. The settings are all fine, shell count, infill, top layer. I'm going to add an extra top layer because sometimes if you notice, if you have a large flat surface, the top layer doesn't always hide the infill underneath. You can kind of see the geometric pattern of the infill through the top layer. So I'm going to add an extra top layer to cover that. And down where it says Others, well, I don't know. I want to pause, but I don't know at what layer I want to pause it at. So I'm going to cancel that for now and just say Slice and Slice Preview so I can look at it. So I can see that there are 16 total layers. So somewhere about halfway is where I want the printer to pause so that I can change colors. And I want to make absolutely sure that that bottom part, the first color, is completely printed and that the logo actually is somewhat printed so that there's no chance that those two colors will mix. So I'm at layer 6 here, 7, 8. Again, 7 or 8 is about halfway, so either one of those should be fine. So I'm going to click Close Preview, start slicing again. Now I'm going to come into the pause layers, and I'll say 7 or 8. I'll say 8. And then OK. Slice. Slice Preview. There's no indication that I've programmed a pause in here, but you just have to take it on faith. We can see that the print time is 30 minutes. That all looks fine. So I will save this file. And a convention that I've gotten into is to include the print time as part of the file name. It just helps me later to know, about how long I should be allowing for these prints. Once you start having dozens and dozens of files, you can forget how long each one takes to print. So if you have a little bit of time at the end of the day, you can quickly look to see which files you might be able to squeeze in there. All right, so now the only thing that remains is to print, and I'll show you that in a later video.